Hi, I'm Jeff Merrill. I'm in Anacortes, Washington with Denis and Mary Umstot, who are veteran cruisers, very responsible for you being interested in trawlers and for me being able to help people buy them. So how long have you guys been cruising?
Well, in TEKA III, we've been cruising 24 years.
On this one boat?
On this one boat. And then we probably cruised, I guess it was about 15 years before that, and just Northwest cruising on trawlers.
Yeah, okay. So 24 years on one boat. The typical tenure that we see is people keep a boat for about 5 years. So you've had 5 lifetimes almost.
Yes.
On TEKA III. Now, TEKA III is a very special boat because she's a Beebe design, custom built by Knight and Carver. What can you tell me about the boat? I mean, what attracted you to this boat, and tell us a little bit about the boat.
Well, do you want to say something, Mary? What attracted you?
Yeah, what did you like about it, Mary?
It felt comfortable.
Felt comfortable?
Yeah, very comfortable.
How long is the boat?
52.
52 feet. Yeah, so it's a lot of boat for 52 feet.
For two people.
It's really a little bit longer than that, but the document says 52.5 feet.
When you go to a marina, you tell them it's 52 feet.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You don't want to get into that overhang stuff. Mary, are you comfortable driving it, though?
Sorta.
Sort of?
Not parking it, driving it.
Yeah.
I don't park.
Oh, yeah. No, docking is the hardest part, and that's where you can be a very good crew person when it comes to docking.
Yeah, he has to have all kinds of information.
Yes. Where was she when you guys bought her?
In San Diego.
Down in San Diego. Okay. And what owner number are you in the whole sequence?
Second one.
You're the second. Okay. So who was the original owner? Do you recall?
Yeah, the original owner was the owner of a lumber yard in Oregon. And
what was his name?
Well, but he saw a BB design and then had a commission. Is that?
Yeah, he had it commissioned. He was interested in doing.
Rod Swanson.
Yeah, Rod Swanson. He was interested in doing the French canals. He had a French wife.
Interesting.
And he wanted to buy a boat that crossed the ocean and then do the French canals. And at that time, that was a big issue with BB.
Oh, yeah, right. Of course.
Almost all the BBs were designed to go in the canals. This one...
So what is our beam?
This one's 16-foot beam. And, of course, the air draft, you have to take all the mast and stuff down and to do it. And one of the problems is now the canal's too shallow. You couldn't do it.
What do we draw?
We draw 6 feet.
6 feet, yeah. So,
and the canal is sort of maximum of 5, and even then, we did a canal boat a couple of years ago, and we kicked up a lot of dirt on something that probably
you were close to the bottom.
Was a 2 to 3 foot draft.
Well, so Robert Beebe wrote the book Voyaging Under Power, which is really what helped spawn this entire generation of cruisers and boaters, and then Jim Leishman from Nordhaven did the revision, and I think there was a second edition and a third edition, and then Denis took on the mantle of developing the latest version, Voyaging Under Power,
fourth edition.
4. So how did you get involved in that project? It's a fabulous book. Really, everybody should have this in their bookshelf.
Well,
and on their boat. 2 copies.
Thank you. I hope it is.
Yeah.
Most everybody likes it that looks at it or reads it or has it for reference. Well, the way I got into it was because of Mary.
Yes.
Mary wrote this Voyaging to the Mediterranean.
Yeah, another great book that you need 2 copies of.
And we found out that it was hard being a self-publisher.
Oh, yeah.
And so she was talking to Bill Parlator of Passage Maker magazine, who was a friend of ours, and he suggested somebody at McGraw-Hill that would look at it. So Mary sent her book there, and they said, "Well, we're really doing mostly how-to books. We're not doing memoirs. We did it books."
Yeah.
And they asked Mary whether she'd be interested in doing Voyaging Under Power.
Right.
And Mary said, no.
I know somebody who could do the job, yeah.
That was it. So that became a dance for a while.
Now, what year would that have been? It's 2021 right now. I'm not sure when you'll be watching it.
I have to look at that.
Okay, I'll look. You
look at the actual publication date. It was a couple of years before that.
2013.
2013. So it would have been about 20.
Wow, 8 years ago.
Yeah, about 2011.
You started the project?
It took about a year to write it, working pretty well full time because I was retired, and all the research. And
so a lot of the original content is in there, but then you have a lot of supplemental stories from other people in the industry who have written different stories, which really fills it out, makes it, it's not as dry and textbook like the first book I think was read.
I tried to integrate it. Of course, we know a lot more about Voyaging Under Power than we knew when Beebe originally wrote the book. Way back.
It was sort of I think this would work sort of deal. Not everybody's doing it.
Yeah, right. And then it was him experimenting with various things and various boat designs and that type of thing. Our boat design was towards the end of his career. And Rod Swanson, the guy that we bought it from, had read Voyaging Under Power, the first edition, and thought this would be the right boat for him. So he contacted Beebe. And Beebe worked on the plans, and then they found a builder with Knight and Carver down in San Diego. And Knight and Carver says, well, we could make a few tweaks to that.
Yeah.
Improve it a little bit. Yeah. So they did. They got some ideas from DeFever and in hull design. And so,
because Art was right in San Diego, so I'm sure they're very familiar with him. And probably built some of his designs.
But he was, Beebe was there at the launch.
Oh, fantastic.
We've got some ancient pictures that show him walking around.
Was he smoking a pipe?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I mean, classic. And wearing his slippers?
No, he was
his
on
whole
the
thing
dock.
was you can go around the world in your slippers on a proper power boat.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
Wow.
And that's, of course, that's absolutely true. So anyhow, they kept wooing me to write the book. And I said, I'd written textbooks before because I was a professor of management, and I wrote 2 books on organizational behavior. So I knew that was a lot of work in a book, and a book like this would be even more work because of all the research involved and that type of thing. So
you really took it to a new level, and I actually have all 4 editions in my, and the first one is actually really interesting, but you can just see how it evolved. This is a version that really kind of ties it all together and is much more modern, even though it's now 8 years old. Have they done a pretty good run with these? Have they sold a lot of these books? Do you know?
Well, I don't know.
They send you $1.50 every 3 months or something in royalties?
My royalties, that was one of the things that was a stickler. They weren't going to pay me anything for doing it. It was almost for free because half of the royalties had to go to the Beebe family. Yeah. And the Beebe family said those could go to what's the big Mystic Seaport.
Okay.
Has a Beebe section there with all of his stuff in it. So half the royalties on this book go to that. And the royalties are kind of slim. They were they're about a fourth of what I got on my textbooks.
Okay. Well, not as many people have figured out that this Voyaging Under Power thing is something you can do, although I have been selling cruising sailboats and powerboats for nearly 30 years, and I was at Nordhaven for 14 years, and I remember the first few years at Nordhaven, so this would have been, I started there in 99, so this is the early 2000s, we had to tell people, yes, a powerboat can cross oceans. Now you don't have to talk about that anymore, but every year we would meet more and more people, and the phenomenon continues to grow and expand, and there's a new audience every year there's the people who have been thinking about it for years, and there's people who just discovered this great idea of getting a powerboat and going cruising.
Well, that's where we got it. We had this trawler, Taiwan trawler, that it didn't like to go to sea at all. It was
that a CHB or a Hershine or what kind?
It was a Hershine.
Yeah, okay.
A 37-foot Hershine with twin laymans in it. And it was, the laymans were kind of far forward, so it plowed through the water. And it didn't like any seaway. Head seas, it bury its bow. Following seas, I want to go all over the place.
Where did you keep that up here? Or did you keep it down in California?
No, we had it here. We had it here. Then the Friday Harbor area. We lived in Friday Harbor or Gig Harbor. We lived for many years, and then we moved to Friday Harbor and kept it there. But we wanted to do. I wanted to do some longer trips. I'd always wanted to go around the world in a sailboat, but Mary hates heeling. She just doesn't. I think she got.
You don't need it. Yeah.
And so she never wanted to do it, and I'd heard about power boats crossing the ocean because in those days, even in the early '80s, I think there was a Fleming that made the crossing, and I read about that in one of the boating magazines. I don't remember which now. But I still didn't think I was going to do it. So we started looking for boats that would be really good sea boats. And we accidentally ran into a passage maker, up in Friday Harbor. It wasn't laid out good for us. We couldn't have used it.
Was it a Beebe design?
No, it wasn't a Beebe.
But it was a long-range power boat.
Long-range power boat. And the guy that had it had taken it through the Panama Canal and up to the coast of Mexico, on the east coast of Mexico, and come back. He'd been there during the big invasion of Panama.
Oh, wow. And Noriega, when they were playing the rock and roll music and driving them out of the office.
So anyhow, we looked at it, and it sort of opened our eyes. So we started looking around for passage makers.
Now, what year would this be approximately?
Oh, this would have been
70s or 80s?
No, this would have been 80 or
mid-80s?
6 or 7,
okay.
right in that area.
Right.
And we
so Nordhoven, Jeff Leishman hadn't drawn his.
Oh no, there weren't. Yeah. The Nordhoven was not really in the picture then.
Bruce and Joan Kessler were probably just underway.
The 46 was just beginning to be talked about and come out and so forth, but it was priced pretty high for our budget.
Yeah.
I was a retired college professor and Air Force officer, and I wasn't making that much money.
No.
To afford an expensive.
Well, you couldn't go online to research boats back then. It was magazines and yellow pages and newspaper ads.
There wasn't anything online at all.
No, there was no online. Yeah.
So we started looking. We found one boat in the Northwest. I don't even remember where it was now. A great big steel boat built in Europe, and it crossed the Atlantic and so forth. And the engine room had submarine-like doors to it.
Right,
doors,
dogs
and
wow,
various things to close it up. And glass was about an inch thick. And it was
really
big.
We need this. Maybe
it was
we're in
a big fellow. And Mary says, "I'm not taking my grandkids on this boat."
Yeah.
Right. So that we threw that one out, and we were just retired at that time, about a year after we retired. And we took our RV down to visit our son in San Diego. And we were just walking along the Shelter Island, where all the
yards there,
yards and everything were. And lo and behold, there was this page of advertisement at Brokaw Yachts down there for BB boats, and showed TEKA III. And so we went and looked at TEKA III, and we liked it. I wasn't positive I was going to love it because I like to fish, and it's got an enclosed.
Right, it's a difficult back end for bringing a fish on.
It was hard to fish out of there, I thought at the time. I solved that problem later on, so I thought that was a big drawback to it. It was also rather strange because it had 4 watertight compartments. That wasn't Beebe. He didn't want to do that.
Okay.
But Rod Swanson, who commissioned the boat, wanted it to design
extra protection and
yeah, right. He had owned sailboats. That's why TEKA is TEKA III. He'd owned TEKA 1 and 2 were sailboats.
So when he built the boat and it was a new boat, did he go anywhere? Did he have any adventures on it before he sold it to you?
Sure.
Why?
Did he ever?
Okay, did he? Mary, tell us about it.
He transferred the paperwork outside of San Diego Harbor, turned left, went to Panama Canal, turned left, and went to Europe.
That's pretty cool, right out of the box.
Yeah. Went to Puerto Rico, filled up with fuel, went direct to the Azores, and then across to
wow, that's
to
great.
Europe.
And then he brought it back at some point too.
He made 2 round trips.
Wow. So did he continue and circumnavigate?
No.
Okay, all right.
He just went back and forth to Europe because, and then he did the French canals while he was over there.
Wow, that is great.
One place on the French canals, we read in the log that he had to go through the tunnels, some really long tunnels in the Canal de Midi. And
they're not straight.
And the air draft is considerable on this boat.
They're concave. It's not squared off.
I have no idea how he did it, except that it was apparently because his wife was French. They got 30 Frenchmen to come aboard. They flooded the bow compartment.
Just sunk the boat down.
With the bow compartment, with 30 more people on the stern.
Did they have life jackets for everybody? No.
Not on the French canals, no. And then they managed to get through, and we didn't see any sign that.
They didn't come back that way, did they? Because they'd have to do it again to get through. Anyway, they made it. They made it.
Yeah. I don't know without looking at the log again. Wow. But there's some strange adventures that
so
he had.
You bought it in San Diego.
Yeah.
And did you come north first, or what did you guys do?
We came north. Okay. We bought it in San Diego, took it north. Mary told me we could buy a good ocean boat, but she doesn't do nights and she doesn't do ocean, so maybe she'd meet us somewhere along the way. But of course, once we got Tikka III, she decided she was going to go with us. So we port hopped at first, and then we left out of where was it, Bodega Bay or San Francisco? I forget which, one of the two. In there, we were going up by Cape Arena. And and it was a nice day. It wasn't particularly rough, and the moon was going to be up that night. And we said to Mary, "Don't you want to try a night run?" What did you say?
I guess I said yes.
You did. You said, "Yeah, I'll try it."
Because of the moon. But as we were going, the moon was behind us instead of ahead of us.
So it didn't really help.
It didn't help a lot.
But I made it.
You made it, and then you knew you could do it.
Yeah.
You kind of got sucked in. You got tricked into doing that.
Well, she got sucked in all the way along.
Yeah.
She did the same thing about crossing the Atlantic. She said, "Well, I'll take the first leg going to Bermuda, and if I don't like it, I'm flying the rest of the way." Like a lot of wives have done over the years.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, but if you like it, and if you have good weather on that first leg, you might be tempted to do the second one.
But anyhow, she said she couldn't let us have so much more fun.
No, they needed me.
Yes. But you don't like to drive the boat.
Oh, yeah, she drove the boat.
I don't like to park the boat.
You don't like to park the boat. I'm sorry. That's what you said, right?
Oh, yeah,
And I always got the night watch.
Yeah, you always did the
3 to 6.
The 3 to 6 watch.
How many people did you have when you crossed oceans?
4.
4. Yeah,
3 to 4, depending on which.
3 would be a minimum in my book.
Yeah, that's the way we felt about it too. We did some fairly long passages of 3 or 4 days, just the two of us. But you get sort of used to it.
Yeah, you get your routine.
Yeah, but it's a lot more easy if you have at least.
Well, and if somebody gets hurt, you have the extra person in there. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, or you have somebody along if somebody gets seasick or some other kind of thing like that.
Right.
We were with a Nordhaven, which will remain unnamed, going south on the run down to Cabo, a couple of years ago before COVID, when we could do that thing. We're just as crew on a 50. And both of the owners got seasick.
Oh, no.
Really seasick. Of course, it's a washing machine when you get down near the tip there. It's pretty rough. But Mary and I have never been seasick, so we're fortunate.
They were good. They had you.
So yeah, that's right. So we basically took over the rest of the night when they were down in the bed, sort of hanging out.
Yeah.
So it worked out well, having an extra crew like that.
What was your longest? I mean, I don't want to ask you about the strongest winds and the biggest waves, but what was a long trip for you? What when you went to Bermuda, and then you go from Bermuda to the Azores?
Yeah. Well, of course, the first time we did Bermuda to the Azores, it seemed like it was the longest one at that time.
Right.
And it seemed like a long trip. But of course, later we went from the Canaries to Antigua.
Oh my gosh! Okay.
So
20 days
and nights.
Oh yeah, the nights count too, right? Okay, good. And was that a crew of 4?
Yeah, we had a crew of 4. We had one sailor friend that wanted to see the powerboat experience, and then our son David came along.
Oh, good. But his first powerboat trip was a 20-dayer?
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, that's a commitment.
That is a commitment.
Yeah.
So, but it all worked out well. We skirted a late season hurricane.
You're kind of no place to hide once you're out there.
Yeah, we were pretty concerned about it because it looked like it was going to turn around and go back towards Africa, which would have been in our path. And the weather router we were using said, a good chance of it doing that. And NOAA said, no, it isn't going to do that. It's going to go into the North Atlantic. NOAA was right, thank goodness.
Yeah, boy.
We had some good sized swell, but they weren't,
What did you use for weather information back in those days?
A lot more difficult. We used a weather router the second time we crossed back.
And how did you communicate?
With single sideband,
right.
On email. Yeah. We used that, and we also got all the NOAA weather maps and the tropical forecasts and
watching the barometer.
Yeah, yeah. But one of the things when you do the crossing from the Canaries to Antigua, is you get out of the range of the weather forecasters because the weather guys sort of depend also on what ships report.
Right.
There's not much shipping, not much traffic there like there is in the North Atlantic where you get a lot of traffic going through.
Any adventurous story of something that happened in the middle of the night that the statute of limitations have expired and you can share with us now? Something harrowing?
2 things.
Okay.
Mary has one. You want to tell yours first?
No, you first.
Well, my most harrowing thing was after we had crossed the Atlantic and we came into Antigua. We came in just at dusk and we did not get into the harbor entrance until it was dark. And
this was your landfall after 20 days?
Yeah.
Oh, but you're so close.
We really wanted to go in, yeah. And we looked at all the charts, and it looked like there was a nice big channel. You go in through the entrance, which we could see on the radar. Plus, we had some friends in there were sort of indicating which way to go and showing lights. And then supposedly you go in and you turn left down the channel. When we got in there, and to top it all off, we had our paraveins down because it was hard to take them up because we thought we had a channel to go to. But we got in, and the place was chock-a-block full of anchored boats.
No place to go.
There wasn't hardly a place to go, and worse yet...
You had a giant beam.
Yeah.
We had a giant beam with them hanging out. And worse was the people on the sailboats, and mostly sailboats. So
anchored boats.
The anchored boats shone their searchlights right at
us. So now you're blind.
Rather than putting it on their sails so we could see where they were, they shined it at us, which killed the night vision. So
of course.
It was really hard. Our friends did come in and sort of guide us in.
They got in their dinghy.
They found a place where we could anchor, which was really tight. And
that'd get your attention.
Yeah. So that was, for me, that was the scariest thing. I mean, we shouldn't have come in.
Well, you'd done all the hard stuff, though. You'd gotten there, and I think people do let their guard down. You didn't let your guard down, but I did a similar trip with Dan Streech. We took the Nordheim 40 around the world.
Yeah.
Dan and I and Mike Gregovich, who was the technical writer, went from Barbados to Panama, and we came in right at dusk. But after, I forget, 7 or 8 days, we just wanted to be done. You could smell the earth. I'll never forget that. It was, and so we anchored out, but we didn't try to navigate through into a harbor. We just anchored out the shore and celebrated. So Antigua, you made it. And Mary, what was your scary story?
Mine was on our trip around the Cairo trip around the Black Sea. We had just come out of the Danube. And the Commodore...
In a gale.
Yeah, the Commodore said, I think we can make it. Let's have a vote. How many want to go? So most of the people said, let's go. We're tough. And in the middle of the night, I was approaching the big harbor in Bulgaria, Constance. Constance. And the wind was blowing really hard, and we were told that if you go over 3 miles out, you're going to get tangled up with fishing boats.
Okay.
So stay closer. So smart me, I decided to weave my way through the anchoring field. So here I am checking the radar every time I see a boat.
Oh,
And
now I'm sleeping.
of course, he's always sleeping.
So you had to navigate through a bunch of anchored boats? And
Yeah.
But that wasn't the
Then
scary
I
thing.
thought that I was okay because I was almost out. And then all of a sudden I saw red, green, and white coming right at me out of the harbor, going to anchor.
Oh.
And of course, I'm little. He's big. And I'm sure he never saw me. So I pulled back on the throttle and flung us to the starboard side. And he comes running up the stairs. What's going on?
Yeah.
The time I got up there's this big ship going right in front of us.
If you hadn't done that, we wouldn't be here talking, would we?
I don't think so.
No.
But that was as spooky as I got. And then my knees started to go.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've done a lot of passages, nothing like what you guys have done, but we've always make it a rule that if the RPMs change, or if you do it once or twice, that's a signal that everybody needs to get to the pilot house. If someone's in the engine room, they can't hear you. You don't want to turn the lights off on them or something like that. So you change the RPM because you get into that groove. And what do you run? 1,300 RPM on this boat? What do you probably have a number?
Mostly 12 to 13, somewhere in that area.
But if so, you're and you just kind of feel it, and you can sense if it changes. And you wake you right out of a sleep. If that changes.
Immediately, yes.
I had no time to go down and tell him, Dennis.
No,
she had to take
by changing the RPM and making a turn, got him up.
Yeah, just that fast.
Wow.
So I think that was the scariest. Second one was when I came off the top of a wave. Boom. And I was sleeping in here, so I was midship. And he was in the stern, sleeping away. And our third person was in the engine room doing his engine room check.
And he dropped down in the engine room from that big wave, too?
No, he was just down there.
Oh.
I was the only one that felt it.
Oh, wow.
Because we were trying to get closer to shore so that it would be less rough.
Yeah.
But that was wrong because the waves are going to build.
It was coming north along the Baja through that really windy.
Was it Tehuantepec? Was it that kind of area?
No, on the west side.
It was on the west side, and wind was funneling out of the mountains, probably blowing 40 knots or something like that, and it was kind of rough with it on the beam because it was coming offshore. So we decided to turn and go into it and go closer to shore,
right?
And which was what we were doing. But apparently there was a big
swell that started kicking.
Big wave that came in there, sort of a mini tidal wave kind of thing. And I slept right through it. And our friend was in the engine room doing an engine room check. And he said, "What noise?"
Oh, my gosh.
I scrambled up there so quick and I couldn't find anybody. I thought, oh, God,
they all jumped overboard.
They split in half and I'll never see them again. So I couldn't wait till we had another haul out so I could
make sure that all the parts were still there. Yeah.
Look under the bottom.
Oh.
I told her we were fine.
He's always telling me that.
Yeah, everything's fine, honey. Just, How many countries, do you know? I mean, if you figured it out, how many countries you visited?
We have 40 country flags.
Wow. 40 courtesy flags, plus a Q flag.
Yes.
Now, are those some of the place of honor somewhere? Or are they in a box? Or where are those?
We're going to take them with us to Tucson.
Okay, good. Yeah.
I don't know why we flew them on TEKA III every time we had.
You had them when you went to Trawler Fest. I think you had all your country flags up there.
We like to do that.
Yeah, we'll insert that photo here.
Okay,
if we get it. Yeah.
So that was pretty impressive.
That is impressive.
But altogether, since we've been married and been traveling, we've been to 93 countries. Right?
Yeah, I think so.
How many most of those by water or?
No. We've lived in Europe and in Asia, so we split up from there. And so I had a good stepping off point.
So people always want to know places to go. And pre-COVID, you could really go almost anywhere. But if you could magically transport TEKA III, what would be your top 1 or 2 or 3 places that you would love to go back to? Where did you maybe pass through and just we should have spent more time there? Or where did you have some of your best memories? What would you say?
I liked Marmaris. I liked Turkey.
Turkey, okay.
Turkey was awfully nice. I loved visiting the Italian ports and anchoring some places. We've got some pictures of us anchored with an ancient town up to the left and a glass of wine sitting on the deck there that are quite nice. But there's so many nice places. Certainly the west coast of Canada and Alaska and Washington are just wonderful cruising grounds.
It is.
But I will say the Pacific Ocean is not Pacifico.
No, it's a bad name. Yeah, it's a bad marketing term for that ocean.
Yeah, the roughest water we have found was when we were going south on Tikka around the tip of Eureka.
Oh, Eureka.
Oh,
we had been in.
Is that not that's north of Mendocino?
Yeah,
yes. Mendocino's kind of not been my friend a couple times.
Now, Mendocino was
nobody's friend.
It was not our friend either. But we were going there. We thought we'd go into Eureka and wait for the weather to get better, and so we called the Coast Guard when we were outside of Eureka, and the Coast Guard says, "Have you been in this bar before?" And we said, "No." Well, don't come in.
Said,
local knowledge needed.
Go and you'll be in safe water by morning.
Yeah. Wow.
So
they know that stuff.
Yeah, so
they didn't want to come out.
We did keep going, and it was one of these black nights, and it was blowing a gale, and the seas out of the north are probably 12 to 15 feet, and then finally, that's a real big test. We hadn't been in anything that bad before. And, I tried to steer a few times along the way, and I couldn't manually steer in the black just by compass in that rough seas. But luckily, the autopilot did a good job of steering.
Autopilots are a pretty good invention. Yeah, they really
are.
Make it easier. Yeah, you'd be worn out if you had to hand steer.
Oh, it would have been terrible. And
what about a breakdown? What broke down at the most inopportune time that you guys had to MacGyver and fix? You have any of those kind of episodes?
How about when the block broke on the Paravane?
Paravane block broke?
Yeah, well,
that was in the middle of the night.
So
if you only have one fish in the water, then you're kind of pirouetting around it, aren't you?
No, one fish is not bad. A lot of people technically say that you shouldn't ever run on one fish, but we did fairly routinely. No, we were crossing from Jacksonville, Florida to Bermuda, and the cold front went through, and the waves were probably running about 10 feet, weren't they? Something like that. And that wind was blowing pretty good, maybe a gale, maybe near gale. And at that time, we had redone the rigging on our paravanes so that we could put them on a winch and pull them up.
Okay, raise them, adjust the height or the depth.
We found the difficulty of getting in and out of shallow places. You had to pull the paravane.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I don't know why they're more.
So I had done that, and I had them rigged in that way, and I had some blocks down on the base below the winch, and then blocks on the end of the boom.
Pulleys, yeah. So
it moved, and they were rated at about as big as you could get, not quite, but almost. And in the middle of the night, in these quartering seas, the paravanes are taking a tremendous load,
a lot of force,
and the block broke loose, and
pretty good noise.
Pretty good noise, and
it announced itself as yes, we need attention here.
And there was only 3 of us on board at that time. Bob hadn't joined us yet.
Oh, it's just Alex.
Just Alex. But anyhow, we stopped the boat, and we managed to pull it in because we had the winch. We could get, but it had torn the canvas. You could still see where the canvas was torn up there. But we got it pulled in and secured away, and we ran on one paravane the rest of the way to Bermuda. But I thought you were going to choose a different time because I didn't think that was as scary as our sort of not quite maiden voyage, but our maiden voyage going south, which Mary writes about in the book. We left Nia Bay after waiting out a couple of major gales and with fishing boats. And so we were going to go.
So you're poised at the end of the strait.
We're poised at the end of the Straits of Juan de
Been in Nia Bay. Sure.
Ready to go and
make the left turn.
And there was a slight weather window. It wasn't blowing a gale. It was only blowing 25 knots.
harmless stuff, yeah.
But of course, it had been blowing for weeks almost. So the seas were pretty good size, but we were doing just fine going down there. And lo and behold, the engine quit.
That's right.
Because
Oh, you don't need an engine on a boat like this, do you? I mean, that's overrated.
We had gone all the way up to the northwest from California. We'd circumnavigated Vancouver Island.
You're a couple thousand miles into operating the boat.
Yeah, so we thought everything was just fine.
Yeah, shaken down by then.
So Mary's talking on the radio to one of our commercial fisherman friends that was...
But we were stuck with Nia Bay.
He was probably about 10 nautical miles away. So she was talking to him, but we're dead in the water. I mean, it's rough. Both paravanes are in the water, but
25 knots.
When you're dead in the water with 8, 10, 12-foot seas, the paravanes go.
So does that turn you sideways to the waves, or does that turn you into them with the I never thought about being stopped with paravanes in the water. What was your orientation?
I think mostly sideways.
Yeah, it seems like that was always, which is the most uncomfortable.
But it was, it was keeping the roll under control. Yeah. But it makes a lot of noise. You don't think about it when you're underway. You never hear anything.
Because the motors or the engines.
The motor does, and of course they're going through the water smoothly.
Yeah.
But it made a lot of noise when it was when there was no engine. So I ran down there, and lo and behold, we had crap in the filter, and then it turned out the engine filter was also full of stuff.
You had bad fuel.
The fuel was apparently. Some of that was left over because we bought the boat. It had been sitting a long time.
Sludge down the bottom of the tank.
Sludge
finally surfaced.
Yeah, it didn't come up until it really got rough. And so,
that would make sense. Yeah.
So I don't know. I was pretty fast at changing whatnot. It probably only took a half hour, but it seemed like a lifetime.
Oh, yeah.
I was relaying. I was in the pilot house and he was in the engine room, and I was relaying. But
she was talking to our commercial fisherman friend, who was a tuna fisherman. With a boat not too much bigger than ours, and he would lay at night in it with a sea anchor.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I was going to say, so you didn't really have time to set up a sea anchor. You just went down and started fixing things.
No, the paravanes were leaving it relatively comfortable. I mean, we were rolling pretty good, and it was a lot of noise, and it was scary because we were stuck.
Being stopped in
the middle of the night,
not when you wanted to, is not a good thing when you're supposed to be underway. Did you have to bleed the engine after you got the filters redone?
Oh, of course.
Yes. Yeah. No. Just to make it even more fun.
Yeah.
The grand finale.
That's right. It's a manual.
You didn't smell like diesel when you came out of the engine room, did you, Dennis?
I think I did.
Nice diesel bath.
My thumb was, it has one of the
priming levers.
It has a priming lever down on the fuel pump there, and so you have to bump it until you get all that air out of there. But then once I did, it started right up. Thank goodness.
Diesel engines are very forgiving, very reliable.
Yeah.
I think it was the fuel was just churned up. You started some big stuff.
There's no question. That was it.
But we ended up turning the other way.
Yeah.
Did you go back?
No.
Yeah.
The rocking pushed us so that the shore was on the other side.
Oh. Okay. Yeah. You were heading north when you're supposed to be going south.
Yeah. We had a little bit of an adventure getting into the Columbia River too, which is fairly notorious, and the waves are pretty good size. And we were supposed to be following a sailboat, about a 50-foot sailboat or something. And they've been into the Columbia River many times. He said, just follow us. When we got to the Columbia River, where are you at? We called him. Where are you at? We don't know where we're at. We're lost.
Oh, this is your lead dog.
This is our lead dog.
Mm.
So Mary and I had to turn around and fetch them, and then we had to be the lead in through the channel going into the Columbia River. Just about
Was it daylight though?
No.
Oh no!
It was dark,
and we're looking out of the side window and saying, "I see number 6."
Yeah, we had radar, but at that time we didn't have any reliable GPS.
Yeah.
No,
We
didn't have GPS. So
I had a night arrival in San Francisco Bay one time, and we're looking at the radar, and there was no way in. It was just this big wall in front of it, and we finally realized it was the Golden Gate Bridge. If we just stay between this stuff, we can get there. But, at 3 a.m., you're just not thinking straight on all this stuff, because the radar does pick up something that's above the surface.
Yeah.
So,
we ran away to sea in our 60s and spent 10 years on the water.
Wow.
And it was quite the...
And now you're in your 50s, because that erases time, right?
We hope.
Yeah. Well, tell me about this book, because I know Penny Talbot, who did the art.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about this book.
A cutie.
Yeah.
I decided that I wanted to teach the little ones the parts of a boat. So we took all the parts off and put them together again. And that told it in rhyme.
Yeah. How long did it take you to compose all of this?
I don't think it took
2 afternoons.
Long. But it's based on a true story. We did get a fish caught.
Yeah, this is the picture that got Penny Talbot the job of illustrating it. It's a picture of the anchor, because Mary wanted an anchor that was going to talk to us. So Penny did that really nice picture there.
Yeah.
Plus, she did all the others.
Well, and then does this boat look familiar on the cover? Yeah, I think that's TEKA III.
Yeah, I think so.
Kind of like this, but the cartoon version or the...
this is different. This is
you got a Nordhaven 43 on the cover here.
Nordhaven 43, but TEKA's on the inside of this one.
I saw an FPB when I was looking for the date. Yeah. Dashu boat.
Okay, where's my picture? Oh, I've already lost it.
You've seen this book before.
I have seen this book a few times.
Yeah.
I just turned 2 pages.
When people say to me, "Oh, you got a Nordhaven."
There it is.
Oh.
I'm the grandmother. The Nordhaven.
That's the picture.
That's a great one. Yeah.
An icy strait.
When you guys bought this boat, were there, that's pre-Nordhaven, so Krogan was around, but probably didn't have the right size boat for you.
Yeah.
And then it was custom boats. There really wasn't a production. You didn't really have much of a choice.
There wasn't hardly any choice in those days. They were one of.
And it's not that long ago in the grand scheme of things.
Oh, it really.
This has just come a long way in a pretty short time.
Oh, well, I say that. I forgot what.
Yeah, well, I say that a lot myself.
Four. They built 4 of these, and we're the only one that's done all that.
Well, they were all somewhat different, but 4 of the same hull.
They couldn't mass produce.
We've never seen the other 3. I think the other 3 were all coastal cruisers, but Knight Carver did build some big boats for international. One with 10,000 gallons of fuel.
Wow!
And which
serious.
He was.
What do you carry on TEKA III?
2,000.
Yeah, that's a stout load.
Yeah, it's a lot of fuel, but of course you don't have to worry about bladders or anything else.
No, I think it's better if you can do it. And
we could cross the Atlantic, turn around, and come back.
So you got 1,200, 1,300 RPM. Are you burning 2 gallons an hour? Or what kind of fuel consumption were you?
Well, pretty low. The fuel consumption's in the book. Sometimes I forget exactly what it is.
That's why you write it down.
That's why I write it down. Right. I've got a table in there if I can find it. Fuel consumption. Not only TEKA III, but a lot of other boats. Where did I put that? Oh, horsepower.
Mary, how many other types of boats in the power cruising world have you seen that you like better than this boat? Have you seen anything that you get really used to one boat, don't you? And to have something that nobody else has really is pretty cool too.
Yeah, and we enjoy anchoring and entertaining. We've had up to 20 people out on the back deck.
Have you really? Yeah.
what do you call those things?
With the cockpit area?
Yeah.
The Lazarus?
Sundowners.
Okay. Oh, the cocktails.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Words one at a time.
Yes. Well.
The Rolodex isn't hitting me all the time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Here you go. You've got real world fuel burn. What are we? Page 396.
We've got for TEKA III. We've got 3 different readings between 2.38 nautical miles per gallon to 2.66 nautical miles per gallon, which is pretty good.
That's very economical.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
And 100% paravanes.
So you got some drag from that for sure.
Yeah.
What advice would you guys have, having done this and been so involved, somebody who just all of a sudden last week decided, hey, a power boat for cruising would be great. What would you tell them to think about, or what should they look for? What kind of things did you guys learn that you just didn't know ahead of time? You didn't have all the resources we do, but what advice would you have for cruisers?
Well, my advice continues to be what I put in here. One of the keys to enjoyable cruising is trying to keep things simple.
Yeah, you're right.
There's so many people that are into power cruising that have gotten so complex and that it's almost impossible to keep up with what they're doing. You've got people.
You need to be an engineer
that are putting in lithium batteries, and it requires all kinds of different monitors and different charging systems and everything else. A lot of things to go wrong. It's the thing that we found is this boat was built with a lot of backup and is all simple. There wasn't too much to go wrong with it.
Yeah, right. The more complexity,
the more complexity. If you really want to go cruising, now if you want to just mostly sit in the harbor or do, short cruises and things like that, some of the nice things that they have, maybe a dishwasher and a trash compactor and things like that, would be sort of nice to have. But if you're crossing oceans, forget it.
You don't need it.
You're
not going to use it.
Yeah.
Yeah, a place for everything and everything in its place, and no extra. Yeah, I think you told me that once before.
I'd like to have that pattern, but we never do get it right.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a real fun conversation with you guys. Anything else you want to add that we can share with people? There's some great books here, everybody, that you need to be considering.
Yeah, we wouldn't mind selling a few books.
Yeah. So this is not an advertisement for the books, but now you know the people.
But we don't make much out of any one of the 3. Mary just wanted to do this one because she likes to do books for kids.
It's really cool. Yeah,
and the pictures in it are wonderful. What Penny did. Yeah. So, but Voyaging to the Mediterranean is a fun one for anybody to read, and this one I tried to make it a Bible. I tried to make it a full reference book about a lot of things, and tried to get as much in there as I could.
I think it's great. Would you think of other chapters to add now? Or are you happy with it? I mean,
I'm pretty happy with it now. Obviously, there are some things that I could add now, especially on the technical side, that have changed in the last 10 years. But most of them, I wouldn't.
The foundation and the standards.
I wouldn't necessarily recommend. Our old Gardner engine. For instance, our engine's got hydraulic start on it, and it's got big tanks, accumulator tanks that store the hydraulic power. Same thing they use in helicopters. Well, that means that we don't have to worry much about whether we have a good battery to start our engine.
I wasn't even aware of that.
And
that's really amazing.
It's made by Bosch, especially for marine uses and trucks and things like that. And, it really is nice.
Great. Well, thanks, you guys. Really enjoyed it. And thank you, everybody, for watching.